Hello and welcome to the United Stand. Mourinho and Ed Woodward are going to have a showdown. They're having a showdown, boys and girls. They're having a showdown. They're having showdown talks, apparently, in the next 48 hours. What will that entail? We'll be discussing that. We'll also be talking about this theme recently. They picked up on it again. Another ex-Manchester United player going in on Paul Pogba right at the start of the international break. What is all that about? Why do we need to hear it? How does it help Manchester United? Wayne Rooney's also spoken. He's not the player who's done that, by the way. We've got some injury updates, a little bit of transfer updates, lots and lots to discuss. And also, I'm just going to say it about these ex-players. What I do not get, right, first of all, I'm just going to say this. A lot of ex-players are coming out at the moment backing Mourinho. That's fine. There's a lot of United fans who back Mourinho. But what I do not get is when it's an ex-player, and some of them have had major success with Manchester United, how is it that Manchester United fans like me and a lot of you lot look at it and never move away from the fact that, yeah, the board's not great, the way they've treated Mourinho, not backing him's not great. But the big thing for me is the football's not great. That's why the issue's there. We're a football club. And yeah, the board should do more, and we're going to talk about the 11 players out of contract in a moment. But the reality is, the football's not good enough. Surely that's the be-all and end-all for a football club. So when I see ex-players who played for the club and won loads of trophies saying, you've got to back Mourinho, his track record's brilliant, it just makes me think some of them are a little bit thick. Because I just think, well, or lazy. Lazy's probably the right thing, because they're just rolling out some, his track record's great, I'd stick with Mourinho. Have you actually, maybe they're ex-United players who don't watch United play, because I'm sure the brilliance of some of these players in United shirts, if they actually saw what we see week in, week out, they wouldn't be rolling out the same old line that Mourinho's got a great experience, this, that and the other. It's about the football, and I think that gets lost so much. I think people just get lost on this moral standpoint of, I'm going to back Mourinho because of this, I'm going to back him for that. And realistically, I just think it should always be about the football. But let's talk about the showdown talks first. We can come back to that. So Mourinho and Ed Woodward are going to have showdown talks. This has been reported. Well, they could have already happened. It could have been yesterday, but the talk is in the next 48 hours. Does that mean that there is still a chance that Jose Mourinho could be sacked? Some people are saying maybe it is. Brilliant video last night with Phil Brown. If you've not seen it, absolutely superb. Talking about Friday night, what's gone wrong. I think what's abundantly clear to me is, and I know Flex and Rance were talking about it this afternoon, is that Mourinho is on borrowed time. That doesn't mean he can't buy more time, but he's certainly on borrowed time. Something was meant to happen at the weekend. What will these showdown talks entail is what most people will want to know. I would suspect that they entail Ed Woodward saying to Jose Mourinho, I back you. Please start winning games, because that's the only way I can not sack you. Because if I sack you, my neck's on the line, because I've failed with 3 managers since Sir Alex Ferguson. And that, I think, is why Ed Woodward backs Jose Mourinho. I think Ed Woodward backs Jose Mourinho. And I know he's the figure point where everyone goes, well, he's the one sacking him. But there's more to Ed Woodward than the board. When people talk about leaks from the club, it's not Ed Woodward all the time. There are other board members. And I think that Ed Woodward has to back Jose Mourinho, because Ed Woodward, Jose Mourinho, was his pet project, if you listen to what everybody said about it. It was well reported that Sir Bobby Charlton never really wanted Jose Mourinho at the club, felt that he was a wrong fit for him. Well, he's not a Sir for nothing. Well, he's actually a Sir for brilliant services to football. But I tell you what, he's probably not wrong on his opinion with Jose Mourinho, was he, in hindsight? But Ed Woodward got Mourinho, Ed Woodward got Moyes, Ed Woodward got Van Gaal, and all 3 have failed. And that, for a chief executive, is not a good record. So I don't suspect that these showdown talks are going to be anything other than, I back you, Jose, I'm with you, Jose, and we need to turn this around, Jose. I suspect that that's what those talks are, because I think Manchester United are desperate to save face, save money, and save publicity. And the best thing that can happen to Manchester United is that Jose Mourinho starts winning football matches. Of course, that's the best thing that can happen for us as fans as well. I still believe that for Manchester United, the best thing would be Mourinho wins us the title, and all the players sing Ring a Ring of Roses, and everyone gets on great. That is fairy tale. That's why I did Ring a Ring of Roses. It is fairy tale. It's not going to happen. It's not how football works. It's not how real life works. I think we've got a massively hard game against Chelsea, which I can't wait for already. So, showdown talks will happen, but I think those showdown talks are with somebody who has got no idea about football, in Ed Woodward. He's a businessman. And with somebody who is at this point, is probably a dreamer. I think Mourinho's a dreamer. I think he talks a good game, but he can't deliver. I tweeted it out off the United Stand account today. I said, look, and it's sort of a progression from what Phil and I were talking about last night. You ignore the bad side of Jose Mourinho, which has been there since he first burst onto the scene. Jose Mourinho's arrogance, mouth, and persona has been there from day one. It was there from when he went sliding up the Old Trafford touchline when he knocked us out in the last minute with Porto. He's always had that. But people will put up with that side of his personality because he wins you the title in the first 2 years. He always starts the season off very well. And defensively, he can shut anybody out. Those three things he can't do at the moment. So it's like, what else can he do? What can he do? I'll tell you what Mourinho needs to do to be successful at Manchester United, and I said it a few weeks ago. He needs to totally and utterly rip up his legacy as a manager and do something totally different. And what are the chances of that happening? And when I say that, he needs to rip up this defensive-minded, pragmatic approach. These quotes about you're better off not having the ball because you're not going to make a mistake. All that needs to go in a nice autumnal fire. Chuck a load of petrol on it, stand back so you don't blow your face off, and burn the book. Burn the rule book, and then just have a word with Michael Carrick or someone like that and say, come on then, how do we play football? Because that's what he's got to do to survive at Manchester United. And never say never, but how likely is it that a man who's built a career and legacy on doing something a certain way, how likely is it that he's going to turn away from that? He won't. He might do it for 1 or 2 games, but he won't do it long term. And the minute he goes back to that style, people at United aren't going to like it. So long term, I just don't think it will work. People are talking about Jardim at Monaco being sacked. It wasn't a topic point. Look, Jardim, why do people think he's a Manchester United manager when he's been sacked in a pub league? And don't come at me with, he's a good manager. It wasn't his fault Monaco didn't spend any money. Monaco should still be doing a lot better than Monaco are doing, regardless of spending money. They've always been one of the big clubs in France. It's gone tits up, to be quite honest with you, for Jardim. He's only ever managed... He's been sacked from a pub league, and you think he should take the Manchester United job. I'd rather take Eddie Howe than Jardim. On paper, he's not a bad manager, but I don't see that, for me, is absolutely out of the frying pan into the fire. We're back in the fire, the autumnal fire that's burning with petrol. But I don't think so. I don't think he's the right person for Manchester United. I really don't. I think there's better options out there. Would I take him over Mourinho? Yes, I would. I'm not going to say he's a terrible manager, but I just feel, and maybe I should have said it at the start, I think there are a lot better options. I think Jardim would be a risk, and I would agree with what Phil said last night. I don't think United are going to take that sort of a risk when they're a multi-million-pound business. Let's go into some of your... And I just want to update you as well. We will be doing the call-in. It's going to be via Discord. I'll have the invite link for you going up on Twitter, hopefully tomorrow. It's going to run a few more tests, and then it will be going, which is good. Bio20 says Jardim is ridiculous. Well, he's not. Why has he got the sack then? Why has he got the sack? If he's so bloody good, why have they sacked him? He's not right for the club of our size. Ben Johnson's right. He's good, but he's not right for a club of our size, which is exactly what I'm trying to say. Zidane would be wrong again. Well, look, we're all going to have different opinions. That's only my opinion. I'm not official club spokesman saying Jardim's a banter manager, don't sign him. It's just my opinion, and it's great that there's a lot of people disagreeing with it, because that's like putting petrol on my fire. I love it. Relight my fire. But no, I want to talk about something before I move on and totally forget about it. We are in the international break again, and that normally means that we get some controversial headlines. So I want to talk about Rooney's in a moment, but basically, Luis Saha has come out, used to play up front for United, spent a lot of time injured actually, but was a very good striker. He's come out and said that Pogba's comments about attack were done on purpose to put pressure on the manager, and it's unacceptable. A few things really, right? That was over 2 weeks ago when Paul Pogba said that. All the fans agreed with him saying that, and Luke Shaw has come out after 2 games and said the same thing with more words and had no pressure put on him. Basically, it's a witch hunt against Paul Pogba, and why it was by the press, it was by Mourinho stripping the captaincy. Luke Shaw has said exactly the same things, that we need to do that, we need to attack, as Pogba did. And why is it being continued now by another ex-player? Again, in the Mourinho camp, slating the players. Look, he might think that, But I tell you what, Louis Saha, as far as I know, is a club ambassador for Manchester United. He's a bit like Quinton Fortune, Peter Schmeichel, Dennis Irwin, Brian Robson. There's a few of them. They're on the payroll for the club. I'm pretty sure he is an ambassador for the club. So if he's on the payroll for the club, he's only ever going to go with what the club's mantra is. And the mantra from the club at the moment is back Mourinho. But I still think it's ridiculous, because if you are on the club payroll or you are an ex-player and you are backing the manager, why are you taking a pop at one of our players? He will read that like we read it. And tell you what, it pisses me off. It really annoys me, because as a fan channel, as fans, we'll say what we want because we are fans. But as ex-players who are going to get articles in the paper, if it's Jamie Carragher, we can't do anything about it. He used to play for Liverpool. He's going to stoke the fire up to cause more problems with United, isn't he? He's going to say Pogba and Mourinho don't get on. But as an ex-Manchester United player, to come out when it's almost been forgotten and we've just had a good result and come out and say Pogba's out of order for doing that a few weeks ago, what does it do other than cause more trouble, more mayhem, more disruption, when we already know there is an issue? I'll tell you what I think. I think is it again about keeping the anti-Pogba agenda in fans' minds, because ultimately the club are going to back Mourinho and try and force Pogba out. It just irritates me. It really irritates me. I don't see the need for it. And Vivek says, I agree, it's a witch hunt against Pogba. The ex-players are being played off, says Emmanuel Geshin. Most of our ex-players at the moment seem to be on the Mourinho bandwagon, and it is interesting why that is. That's their prerogative. That's their opinion. Some United fans are as well. But I just don't see why you've got to start bringing up Pogba directly 3 weeks after the event, 2 weeks after the event, when we've just had a result and we're into the international break again. To me, and I'd love to somebody, if they've got the time, to have a look and see if Louis Saha is a club ambassador, because if he is, I think it's even worse, because he shouldn't be allowed to say that. It's the wrong place at the wrong time to start talking about that. And it's actually what we saw last week after the Derby result, after the Valencia result. Instead of talking about bad things on the pitch, we get manipulated into other avenues to build other agendas that more suit other things. And that's what I feel that is happening with that. As I said at the start of the video, for me, it should only ever be about the football on the pitch. And all these people, all these ex-players who are backing Mourinho, as I say, it's fine. But I'd love to sit down with one of them and say, all right, instead of getting your little CV out for Mourinho and saying, oh, he's had loads of success, can we just talk about our club that you used to play for? For the last 8 months especially, the football has been terminally shit, and he picks ridiculous teams. He signs £50 million players and benches them for kids to play at centre-back. The team is a mess, the football is a mess, but you're putting it out into the press. Players have got to do more. Back the manager. Why are you doing it? Can you actually give us some meat on the bones? Because you might have a really good reason for it, but actually all I'm getting is frustrated with it, because you just come out with the same old nonsense, the same old cliche. Mourinho's got a great track record, let's stand by him. Well, his track record over the last 8 months is pretty crap, and it's consistently crap. So I want to know why they back him. They might have a really good reason for it, but ultimately I just think it's about agenda. Maybe they are getting whispers in the ear. Can you say this? Can you say that? Because really, the agenda we really want is to focus on someone like Pogba, because we're worried if we sell Pogba, that's going to cause more people to be anti-Mourinho. We need to twist it so that people are pro-Mourinho and anti-Pogba. And that's how I may be totally wrong, but that's how I feel at the moment. And I just don't think it's right. That should not be in the press today. That should not be in the press. It's irrelevant, and I wonder about why it's in the press and what the agenda is. You are so right, Mark. They just say old things. It's like whatever will be, will be. Julian M. Well, if they're really passionate about the football club, they shouldn't be saying those things. Wayne Rooney's come out as well. Wayne Rooney's playing in America. Not that that's got a lot to do with it, but what is he watching United week in, week out? Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I am going to talk about Grongfist, Adam Ishmael. So Rooney basically came out with that the players have got to do more, that Mourinho's got a great track record, and the players have got to do more. And he said it under Van Gaal, the same thing. The players had to do more. Van Gaal had some really good ideas, but the players weren't implementing it. And I tweeted something out this afternoon, and I got a load of stick for it. I'm not bothered. And I basically said, I think it's a bit rich. I said, I love Rooney. He is a club legend for me. He irritated the life out of me in the last few years. I thought he was a terrible captain, and he was rubbish for the last 3 years. And I'll argue that with anybody. That doesn't detract from the fact that, he was brilliant. You'll get some fans saying, well, he earned that right. You don't earn the right to be shit in a United shirt because you were amazing for 10 years. You don't earn that right at all. You're amazing for 10 years, then you're crap for 3 years. That's the facts. But I did find it a little bit hypocritical from Rooney, because it's like he's saying, well, the players have got to do more. And then in his last 3 years, that was pretty much what everybody said about Rooney. Where's the talent gone? Where's the effort gone? He's got to do more. So I found it a little bit hypocritical of him to start going in on the players now when exactly the same thing was levelled at him for 3 years. But he did sort of rescue it a bit, but then didn't rescue it, because he said, I was saying the same thing to the players under Van Gaal. But you were one of those players under Van Gaal. So I expected Rooney to be a little bit more sympathetic of the situation, which is abundantly clear to me, is that the reason Rooney and the players struggled under Van Gaal is because his system was ridiculously poor for a club like Manchester United, which Rooney would played for a long time, which was based on speed, counter-attacking football. And then he's got a manager who's telling him to slowly build it up, be pragmatic, and I think that's why Rooney suffered. And I think that's why the players are suffering now. So I was quite surprised that Rooney came out and said, oh, yeah, let's back Mourinho. The players have got to do more, when he was the victim of exactly the same thing under Van Gaal. In fact, Rooney was our Pogba under Van Gaal. That's basically what happened. Rooney was poor most of the time. Every now and again there was a good performance from him, but mainly under Van Gaal and Moyes, but more Van Gaal. Rooney was our Pogba. It was like, what's happened to Rooney? And it's the same thing with Pogba under Mourinho. So I would have hoped that Rooney might have been a little bit more sympathetic to the Pogba situation, having been in exactly the same situation under Van Gaal. But no, yet again, we get the whole Mourinho's got a great track record, let's stick by him. And again, no meat on the bones with it. The next question to anybody who says that ever again should be, have you watched Manchester United over the last 8 months, Wade? Yes, every game. Are you happy with the way they're playing? Well, 8 months is a long time, isn't it, Wayne? Yeah, but he's got a great track record, and then we know it's just there's no substance to it. Fraser says it seems United legends don't know what's going on. That's my suspicion. That is my suspicion. I mean, I think, look, Gary Neville, he's at most matches. I'm sure he knows what's going on, and Gary Neville, I think, is a different kettle of fish, because Gary Neville wanted us to keep David Moyes, and I think Gary Neville is just a traditionalist in his Manchester United support, and some fans are. I think he doesn't like the fact that we sack managers. I think he wants managers to be given a long time. And let's not forget, he was a victim of that at Valencia as well. So he's got his own axe to grind that. But I think from a Manchester United fan perspective, I think Gary Neville is very different. And that's evidenced with Moyes. I thought the sacking of Moyes was brilliant. I think it should have happened 6 months before. But Gary's always been very consistent that he thinks Moyes should have stayed. I totally disagree with that. So when he says Mourinho should stay, I don't have a problem with it. I totally disagree with it, but I don't have a problem with it because he's very consistent, and I think he believes that managers should be given their contract to do their job. But everybody else, I don't know. I do sometimes get a little bit baffled by it. Let's talk about. I want to take some of your comments as well, but let's talk about. I don't want Jardim, Ben Hillis. Tomorrow lunchtime, we are doing our next Manchester United manager candidate. I did Zidane yesterday lunchtime. Obviously, I had flex and rants today, so I couldn't do my next one. 1 o'clock tomorrow, we've got our next episode. There are, at the moment, because it's the international break, we can do quite a few of these. There are 5 we're going to do. We've done Zidane. Tomorrow, there's definitely 4 we're going to do as potential Manchester United managers, pros and cons. They're only about 8 minutes long, so watch it on your lunch. Last night was an excellent show, letting us know what a mess United are in, including the size of the debts as United Till I Die 67. Well, that is almost perfect timing, so thanks for that comment. Brilliant. Basically, and Bob Lawson says Jose in. I'll tell you what, Bob, I ain't got a problem with that. Tell me why. Tell me why and I'll read it out. I don't mind people being Jose in, but tell us why, so those of us who aren't might hear something that makes us think that makes sense. Maybe we should be, because that's how life works, isn't it? But that previous comment, talking about the club and the mess that they're in. Look, I've spoken to Phil a couple of times, and he always speaks about the owners of the club. They're brilliant businessmen. They know nothing about football, and they are focused on the dollar and the pound. That's what they're all about, and they don't want to spend money. We touched on it a little bit last night, but Also in the press today, there's a list of 11 players, Manchester United players, who are out of contract in the summer. Now, I also heard that Luke Shaw will not sign a contract at Manchester United until Jose Mourinho has left, because he's not forgiven him for the last couple of years. Luke Shaw can leave for free next summer. He can speak to clubs outside the Premier League in January. So that's a concern that we haven't got Luke Shaw tied down to a new contract. But he's not the only one. I can list off a few names. Mata, Herrera, Smalling, Jones, I think De Gea, Martial, although we've got the option for another year. There's a few United players, Pereira I think as well, who've only got a year left on their contract. Now that is embarrassing. We were talking about this a year ago because it was the opportunity to get Ozil and Sanchez from Arsenal because they were in the same situation. And we were laughing at how inept a club is to allow that to happen. Are you telling me that we're going to get 11 players signed before January? We're not. We're going to be in a position in January where players are free to talk to other clubs, like we had with Fellaini in the summer. That is bloody embarrassing for this club. Why is it happening? Now, forget the quality of the player, whether it's a Smalling or it's a De Gea. Whoever it is, they are still an asset to Manchester United. And if you tie them down to a longer contract, you can get a fee for them. If they haven't got a contract, they go for nothing. So why is this happening at our club? And this is nothing to do with Mourinho. This is the business side of the club. And this is to do with the club not wanting to spend money. They don't want to spend money. And if you let the contract trickle down, it's simple maths, right? I'm Manchester United's number 7. I'm a brilliant player. I play week in, week out. My contract, when I signed it, was for 4 years and I was on 120 grand a year. 3 years later, I keep knocking on the door of Ed Woodward saying, can I have a new contract? I'm performing every single week. Can I have a new contract? No, yeah, we'll get round to it. And then in the last, as it gets towards the end, they'll go, yeah, let's do a new contract now. And I could do one of two things. I love Manchester United. Yes, sign a new contract. Brilliant. Or up yours, I'm off. And also, if I've got to that stage where I say up yours, how is that affecting me on the training pitch, on the football pitch? This is the problem at Manchester United. They don't want to spend money. So instead of giving me that contract 2 years before, because I'm performing well and giving me more money, say 150 grand a week and get me tied down for longer, our club will let it dribble down because it's all about saving money. If you keep paying them their lower wage for as long as possible, then renew right at the end, you save money. But what you end up with is a pissed off player who may become unmotivated or may even leave as well. And if they leave, they go for nothing. And this is the problem with Manchester United. You know, we're a brilliant business at making money. But if you're going to make money, it's like the bloke who, has a bubble bath on a Tuesday night because he had baked beans on a Monday night. It's all about saving money. And saving money means cutting corners, cost cutting. And that's how you do it with players' contracts. Someone like Man City, De Bruyne is on a 5-year contract. 3 years in, he's one of the best players in the world. You renew his contract then and you reward him for that. Not at United. They don't reward you. They let it dribble on. It's happening with De Gea now. How long has that been going on for? Who's going to be next? Pogba's well into his contract. Maybe we should be renewing contracts with Pogba now. I bet we won't. I bet we'll just let it dry down. And people probably don't realise that side of the business things. And you may not care about that side of things because it's not directly to do with the football. But it is to do with the football. Look at Anthony Martial. Anthony Martial obviously doesn't like Mourinho and may not sign a new contract now because of Mourinho. But actually, when you look at what his agent said in the summer, he said, we've been approached by Manchester United 3 or 4 times over the last year or so about contracts. But they're nowhere near the sort of money that we want. And that's the problem as well. They're just cutting corners, trying to bargain with players. Like, that's our final offer. Fellaini said it himself back in April, and I disagreed with Fellaini, coming out publicly saying the club have messed me around, they've made a big mistake with this. And I think Fellaini, if he'd got better money elsewhere, would have gone, and he stayed at United. But we let it go right to the end, and that was a player that Mourinho was publicly begging to stay. I want him to stay, hopefully he's going to stay. And Fellaini could have walked any time in the summer for free. He could have gone anywhere else. We did manage to keep him. But we obviously bartered with him for a long time. And Fellaini made that clear. How is that going to, fair play to Fellaini because he is an all or nothing player. But actually, he could have been in that last 6 months. I'm down in tools. I'm not going to get injured. It's poor. It's really poor. And again, it's another indication of a football club not being run with the best interests of the football on the pitch. It's a business. Everything's a business, from what they charge you for a shirt, for a seat, to how they treat, and they don't treat the players any better either. The players are just commodities, they are a cost, and it's about cutting that cost. And we need to realise that. This is beyond the manager, this is beyond Jose. Well, DJ United, you're probably right about Fellaini. He couldn't have got much more money. He obviously couldn't get more money elsewhere. I agree with that. But yeah, it is a problem. Please do drop a like on the video, everybody. I feel like I've not even told you actually. I feel like absolute shit. It's why I was late. It's why the stream went up late. I've got really bad stomach cramps. But I'll always do a show for you. And actually, you've made me forget about it for the last 20 minutes. So thanks everybody. I really do appreciate it. And drop a like on the video. We will lose everyone with Joe. I mean, Daniel makes a good point. Daniel Okunde talks about losing everybody. And the trouble is, we worry about the performance on the pitch. We worry about Mourinho, whether he's going to be here or not. Have you ever started to worry about what our playing squad could be next summer? Because De Gea could go, Pogba could go, Martial could go, Herrera can go, Mata could go, Shaw could go. I mean, Smalling can go. I mean, you know, you might be happy about Smalling go. But when they're going for nothing, we are... under Mourinho, we're probably 6 players away because he's upset 3 or 4 players. If everything was going right and we were performing well, I'd still say we're 3 players short of winning a title. Next summer, it could be 3 plus 5 we've lost. It can get worse. This is the thing. This club could get worse. We could become Liverpool after they had all their success in the late 80s and not win anything for 30 years and just stumble from one disaster to another. It really could go that way. We are teetering on the edge in more than one area. And also, I would say this as well. One thing that really resonated me with Rooney is he spoke about Van Gaal and the players not performing. A lot of those players are still here now. A lot of those players were here under Moyes. And at some point, we do have to think about those players and why they are still at this club. That's not Pogba. He wasn't here for Van Gaal. That's not really Martial because he performed under Van Gaal. So forget your normal hate targets. I'm talking about, you know who I'm talking about. There's a number of, well, there's too many to mention, but there's a lot of them who I believe are just not good enough to be at this club. And they've been here through the Van Gaal years, through the Mourinho years, and they're still here now. And, you know, you might like some of them, but ultimately, they're not, I don't think they're good enough to be at this club. And I think they are a recurring theme as well. Yes, the management's not been great, but ultimately, I think some of the players just aren't good enough for this football club. I'm not going to name them because it's not fair, but if you know, there's 5 or 6, and they ain't Pogba, and they ain't Martial, and they ain't Rashford, and, you know, they're not even Lingard. They're not Lukaku either. They're not Matic. Phil Jones, Ashley Young, Antonio Valencia. You know, but there's more than that. There are, and they're just not good enough. People need to stop criticising Smalling, says Andy McGraw. I like Smalling. I do like Smalling. Bob Lawson says Jose plays good football, enjoy it. Yeah, I knew you were messing around. I knew you were wrestling out. Let's talk about defenders. We've been linked to this Grangfist from Sweden. He played centre-back with Lindelof in the World Cup. Actually, he was better than Lindelof in the World Cup, to be fair. I think he plays in the Swedish Premier Division, or he was in their second division. He's 33 years of age. If we make this signing in January, I think I might cry. I think I might just cry. Where's the future in it? He is shit in comparison to like where you need to be. I mean, this is the sort of signing that Swansea make to try and stay up because they can't afford anybody else. This is not the signing Manchester United make in January to try and do what? There's no longevity in it. We won't be in a title race there anyway. Why do it? We're not winning the league this year. If the club are persistent on Mourinho and sticking with Mourinho, buy a centre-back who's 24, 25, that, yeah, he can bed himself in and we can actually build something on. Skriniar is the man from Inter Milan. I tweeted it today. I've been on about Skriniar for so long. He's now starting to hit people's FIFA teams. People, you know, lots of other clubs are mentioning him. I was talking about him in the summer. I was talking about him last season. He is going to be the next Matic if everything goes to plan. He is absolutely the centre-back United should be going and getting in January. We should have gone and got him in the summer. I think Mourinho wanted him in the summer. And that's one thing I would say about Jose Mourinho is you can criticise him, you can take the piss out of him, and he probably deserves it in relation to his style of football. But one thing he does know is how to defend. Not at the moment, but he does know defensive things, and he knows that Skriniar is good as well. We just can't bloody get him out of Inter Milan because he costs so much. But that's the man we should be going for. Louise O'Donoghue says she's going to cry once this show is over. Please don't cry, Louise. We don't want you to cry. And for anybody who was... I've started doing Ultimate Team on Mark Goldbridge, That's Football. I've started doing Ultimate Team on FIFA. I'd never done it in my life. I didn't know how it worked. And... If you watch the first episode, you'll know I don't know how it works because my gold star player was Phil Jones. I thought I was going to get 5 or 6 more. I didn't realise he was my gold card player. Phil Jones. I told you FIFA's got it in for me. They're bantering me. But he is a donkey, right? And he is definitely one of those players that needs to leave our club. And he is definitely one of those players that's been here for Moyes, Van Gaal and Mourinho and just isn't good enough. But he's not the only one. There's a few players like that. Matic has come back from the international for Serbia injured. I don't know whether that puts him out of the game for Chelsea. Same thing happened for Fellaini with the international break, and he still played the next game for United. We probably do need Matic against Chelsea, mainly because we will be parking the bus, and secondly because he's playing against their former club, and sometimes those sort of players play quite well. So that is a little bit of a worry. Raj says, according to me, this team of ours is a Mourinho-styled physical team which suits his tactics and approach. A new manager should deserve a transfer window to buy his own players to implement his tactics. As and when Manchester United do replace Jose Mourinho, and I do think that will happen, I'm just going to keep saying this so it sticks into people's heads. Jurgen Klopp took over from Brendan Rodgers in October. They finished 8th, I believe. If a manager takes over from Jose Mourinho any time between now and Christmas, we've got to accept that we might finish 6th or lower, and we've got to be patient. That the season's a write-off. I'd say the season's a write-off under Mourinho. Maybe that's a little bit unfair. But if we get a new manager, the season's a write-off. Don't expect Champions League. Don't expect anything. We've got a chance of getting Champions League, and that's why I would make the change now. But if it does happen, you've got to give that new manager patience. Under Mourinho, could we still get top 4? We might scrape 4th under Mourinho, but he's got to start winning games sooner rather than later. And I just think as well, the one thing, again, and I want to get your comments on that. Let me just read this comment from Sherath Kamath Fitness. He says, LVG and Jose come from the same school when they play players like Mata out of position. Give Mata a free roll and it makes us look better. It's frustrating to see a Chelsea Player of the Year wasted. What a great comment that is. I remember the year before the World Cup when he was a Chelsea player. I can't remember which World Cup it was. I think it might have been... Would it have been the Brazil World Cup? No, maybe it wasn't the Brazil World Cup. 5 years ago. How long's Mata been here? Anyway, he was playing in Brazil for Spain in the Confederations Cup, and I was quite far away from the telly because it was late at night, and there was this Spanish player in the number 10 position, really quick, absolutely running the game, and it was Juan Mata, and he was a Chelsea player at the time, and I was like, fuck, what a player he is. He's brilliant, he is. We signed him quite soon after that, and we never ever used him in that position. It's one of my biggest bug hates because I think Mata's a fantastic player, and we've never played him consistently where he is at his best. It is ridiculous. It really is. I don't understand it to this day. But what I was going to say is as well, all these ex-players who keep saying stick with Jose Mourinho, he's got a great track record. Not only should we be asking them why should we stick with him when he plays bad football? Do you actually watch United? The second question should be, okay, then we stick with Jose Mourinho. What do you want to do with the 5 or 6 really good players we've got who refuse to play, who don't want to play for him after the season, who want to leave the club? Do we sell all of them and replace all of them and then buy the 3 or 4 more players we need to win the title as well? Are we going to sign 8 players? No, we're not. The business decision is, if it's true that players want to leave Manchester United because of Mourinho, and those players have the names of Martial, Pogba, Pereira, Bailly in them, then that's 4 really good players. A board should be thinking, do we want to lose 4 players all around their early to mid-20s to risk on a manager who is now going into that 3rd season syndrome that history shows it's going to melt down? That's the question they need to ask. Not be looking at his track record. In fact, you know what, Mr. Rooney? when you talk about Jose's track record, or Mr. Zaha, when you talk about Jose's track record, it is really good. But have you skimmed it, or have you actually looked at third year? Because when you look at his third year, when he starts badly, and the players turn, and the dressing room's gone, and the results start going, his track record then is sack or walk. That's his track record then. So it actually is just lazy quotes that are getting floated out, I believe. Phil Jones and Chris Smalling are not priorities for new deals, especially if United sign more defenders in either January or next summer. Harjas says that. That's a quote from Sky Sports. Well, Harjas, that only fits in with what I just said, isn't it? I don't see how Manchester United are going to... when you've got 11 players out of contract, we're not going to get them all onto contracts, are we? We're going to end up letting people go for nothing. That's what's going to happen. Bentham says, stop fueling this player power agenda. I'm not fueling anything, mate. I've consistently told you over the last 5 days that I think Mourinho needs to go. Not fueling anything. It's there. I think that. Some people don't think that. Make your own mind up. Make your own mind up. But I'd love to be proved wrong. And I would sit here, as I have done on a few things, not very often. I'm very, very rarely wrong, actually. It's one of my great traits. I'm pretty much right all the time. It's a hard thing to live with, but I am. But in seriousness, I would love to be sat here in 6 months with United second in the league, fighting for a title and going, I was so wrong. I can't believe it. I've never seen a manager in a position like this turn it around. It'd be absolutely brilliant. But I said about Moyes 2 months into his reign, he needs to go. He's crap, and I was right. I said about Van Gaal at Christmas, I would kiss every arse at Old Trafford if we finished in the top 4. We didn't, and I said Van Gaal needed to go. I was right. And I've backed Jose Mourinho for God. How long has he been here? Over 2 years. And I never thought I would say the words Mourinho out, but I don't need a weatherman to tell me it's raining, and it's raining. And I don't know how long he's going to be here, but I think the board already know he's going to be going at some point, and they're just hoping for a miracle. I think that's what these talks are about. You know, you've got to keep winning. You've got to try and keep the board. You've got to try and keep the dressing room happy. And I think it's one last throw of the dice to hope it happens. And I hope it does happen, because it's the best thing that can happen for us is that United start winning games and everything goes back to how we want it to be. But I don't know. I just don't see it. I don't see it. And I don't think, more importantly, I don't think these comments from people like Louis Zaha about Paul Pogba, that, you know, the attack comments saying he did it on purpose, it undermines the manager and it's not acceptable. Well, it was 3 weeks ago, mate. We've had about 4 or 5 games since then. Paul Pogba's just put in a man of the match, phenomenal performance at the weekend to win us a game of football. Why are you talking about something 3 weeks ago? Why is that back on the agenda? And that concerns me. That really does concern me, because it's like, why is that coming out in the press now, a negative thing, backing Mourinho, slating Pogba? Why is that out there? It's it doesn't make sense to me why that's happening, unless we are being manipulated again. And I'm just having a quick look at something here. I'm pretty sure that Zaha is a global ambassador for Manchester United as well, which makes it even more disappointing. But we'll see. Andrew Ellis says he's sick at FIFA 19. You'll have to give me a mate. You'll have to give me a game, mate. Actually, I'm doing at 10:30 tonight. I'm doing a FIFA 19 pack opening special. Never done one of them before. That should be a little bit fun. That'll be on the Mark Goldbridge That's Football channel, 10:30 tonight. Tomorrow, 1 o'clock, we'll have our next Manchester United manager candidates. Remember that this is just a bit of an international break theme. I said it on Sunday. We've got 2 weeks to really digest and talk about the club that we love, the potential changes that need to be made, the options that are out there, pros and cons. That's all I'm going to do on these potential managers. Maybe Jardim will appear tomorrow. Maybe it'll be somebody else. 1 o'clock for that. We will be doing the call-in. I'm pretty nearly much set for doing that. So just keep watching. I feel this international break is whizzing by already, which is quite a good thing. 8 o'clock every night on the United Stand. Join me tomorrow night at 8 o'clock as well, live. And I'll speak to you all soon. Have a very good evening. Thanks for all your comments. I'm going to go have a nice hot bath and a bit of a relax, watching a bit of the Bake Off. And then I'm going to do my FIFA opening packs at about 10:30. I'll see you all later on That's Football if you want to watch that tomorrow on here. See you later.